What's good, everybody? This is Love Music More, and I am joined with Adam and Shawn. We are going to be talking about music, composition, arranging, all sorts of things, as well as their musical backgrounds and how they ended up, composing for indie films and all sorts of awesome stuff. So, welcome to the show. If you guys could just introduce yourselves just briefly, kind of what maybe your primary instrument and some of the stuff that you're most excited about that you're working on.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having us on the show. My name is Shawn Sutta. My primary instrument is the piano, keyboards. And I just love making music in all capacities, but film in particular lets me kind of step outside of my own story and work on something and make music that I might not have made if not for this story that's being imposed into the mix of things. So that's what gets me excited about it.
I really like that. That's really cool.
And I'm Adam Robl. I guess my main instrument is guitar. That's where I went to school, studied jazz guitar. But since then, I've taught myself how to play I don't know about well, but good enough to play a bunch of other, string instruments, piano, whatever's needed. Because we do indie film scoring. So far, it's mostly indie films, so the budgets are kind of on the lower side, and we have to, make do with what we got. And we absolutely hate, virtual instruments. So
cool.
We try to, try to keep it as analog as possible.
I love that.
Obviously, huge fan of music because I'm a musician, but also just as much a fan of film. So it works really well to be kind of melding those two loves together, and we're having a good time doing it.
I really get that. That's really cool. And I love the idea of it bringing, the story, bringing something new out of you. I really like that kind of concept. Could you talk a little bit more about that? About hey, I am now scoring this thing about X, and I never thought I'd be making music with a toy piano and a glockenspiel, but here I am. That kind of thing.
Yeah, one of the things about it is that I find it really hard to write when it's open to just write anything on any instrument for any purpose of any length with no deadline. And when you're on a film, you have, there's a very particular subject and we need exactly this many seconds of music on exactly this subject. And so it creates a little bit of a frame of I'm doing something within this structure, which is just helpful for me. And then, like I said before, it just helps me to step into another story, into a feeling that I might not have been able to tap into if not for this movie bringing me into a place and allowing me to create something that's not necessarily part of my own biography, but part of somebody else's story and something that somebody else came up with that just puts me into a different space and allows stuff to come out that wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, each movie has its own world, and it's interesting to see how it affects us and the aesthetics too, even just the aesthetics of the cinematography. Visuals inspire sound, So it's interesting just to kind of you have to kind of almost reset your mind and keep it open to whatever might come out, instead of attaching yourself to more stereotypical, I guess, intuition. I don't know,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, like allowing that to lead you rather than you leading it sometimes. Yeah, having that conversation with the medium. I totally get that. Yeah, that makes sense. In terms of in that production process, when do you get picture, and when do you start scoring? What kind of version of a film are you typically working with? Are there scenes that are for placement only, or has it been colored? Usually where are you at, or is it a mix kind of throughout the process?
Most of it has been, we've been giving almost a finished,
cool,
pretty close.
The edit is pretty much locked.
Mm-hmm.
Typically when we're working most of the time.
A lot of time it has temp score already, which makes it kind of cool. But also we're in the middle of working. Well, it hasn't even been shot or anything, but we're, starting to come up with ideas for a project that's still in script stage right now, which is a whole different different thing for us, which is kind of awesome because it's like
Yeah.
we're like part of the foundation almost in a sense. So like
That's really cool. I want to talk more about that, but first, could we talk about temp scoring? Because I bet a lot of listeners don't even know what that is and kind of like how that works. And I would love to just let them in on that little secret part of the process.
Yeah, a lot of the time we'll get a film that's been edited, and when the editor's working, they don't have our score yet. So they'll get some temporary music. They can draw from anything that's ever been created.
Cool.
Just something that kind of fits the vibe of what they're looking for. And it helps them kind of pace out their edit so that there's already some music or a tempo or something that they can go off of. And then we'll either use that to inform what we're going to make, or sometimes we'll just ignore it and make something else that feels more right to us. But it's a starting point for the conversation. Like, okay, this kind of works from their perspective, and then we take it from there.
Sometimes it makes watching the entire cut the first time like a little easier. But it just depends. Like it depends if a movie is already cut in a great way and there's no music, it can still just be as entertaining of a watch. But yeah, it's all sorts of ways of doing it.
Do you think between the two you would put more music versus less music? Like say for example, you're getting a really well edited movie and it doesn't have temp music. It's just Foley and dialogue. Do you think you would put less input into that versus something that's just full of temp score and you'd be like, oh, I gotta throw underscore for like every scene? Or do you think no? Cool. That's cool.
I mean, we do like spotting sessions with the directors when there is no temp score, and like I feel like a lot of the times we're all on the same page, like as far as music needs to be, right?
Yeah, I mean, if the thing works really well without music, then I think leaving more space is the answer there. If you don't need music and it's already working, then you're just overdoing it.
Yeah.
If there's a bunch of temp in there and that's keeping it working, then you have to kind of make sure you also provide that same amount of music.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, maybe you guys could talk a little bit about like music as pace. Like I know that people can picture like action drums, like a chase scene or whatever. But like, on the other side, like a simple drone or like an atmospheric kind of pad or something like that builds into a score. Can you talk about like some of the, knobs and parameters, kind of things that you would use to create that feeling of momentum or pace, or kind of your take on that?
Yeah, there's all kinds of different ways to go about it. It's so infinite, which is kind of what's so exciting about it. But like you mentioned, there's adding a little tension and something that's not moving, that's just kind of a pad underneath, that's kind of bubbling some sort of emotion. And then there's the choice to actually set a tempo of some sort, of like something that's driving at a certain pace. And sometimes you want the cuts to kind of land on the beat, and sometimes you really don't want that at all. But it's definitely a tool that can take something that might just seem like it's not moving forward, and you can accelerate it by like action drums or even just a simple plucking or whatever it is that's moving it forward.
And a lot of times the edit will dictate that, just like tell you that already. Like, okay, this scene is being cut in a certain way where it's like there's obviously a rhythm. Obviously, we need to have some ostinato or something happening, some movement happening throughout this. No dialogue is another. You don't want to have a lot going on during dialogue. But I mean, we're not really action composers,
right? No, totally.
In that sense, so it's like,
let's give it an example of like the furthest end of that.
We've done some thrillers before where we've had some like scenes that kind of like enter into that realm, but like it's a lot of I'd say even recently, like it's a lot more, or like a little more classical based,
drama,
a lot of ambient, kind of mix between classical and ambient. And
cool.
We have like a Euro rack set up with some like modular synths and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. But.
That's awesome. Yeah, let's zero in on the two of those terms that you threw out, because I know like musicians, the ostinato, like awesome musical device. I would love to tell people kind of what that is, and then also how Euro rack synths can play really well with ostinatos, and let's let people in on that vocab word and broaden their minds. So next time they're watching a film and they listen, and they can be like, ostinato.
You have the dictionary.
I mean, I think an ostinato is just a repeating pattern.
Yeah.
Sure, a Google search will get something more eloquent than that.
No, it's perfect.
Little musical pattern that repeats.
Yeah, right.
It's a good starting point for building around too, because it keeps you in the on the road, you know. And you
I like that. I like that.
Playing your own little things on the way.
Totally.
But Eurorack, obviously, like, I mean, a sequencer, it's just basically it accomplishes the same thing as a starting point. The modular stuff does so much more, but like, kind of cool just to pop a vibey little sequence and see what happens sometimes, you know.
Yeah. No, totally. Yeah, I love those kind of concepts of like musical nuclei. You know, those like little things that other stuff can orbit around or can provide, like you're saying, that rhythmic pulse, that duk it, 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 and that sequencer sound, and it allows you to add more of those atmospheric elements.
Yeah, it's not even. Yeah, it's like we use a lot of sampling too, so we have like a lot of sampling modules that kind of mangle all these like acoustic samples into ways that don't sound like synths, but they sound like, obviously it's being processed, but in a rhythmic way that sometimes is really fun to build over too.
Totally. No, that absolutely makes sense. Could you talk a little bit about your process? Because I know that you're saying you prefer to do, played rather than sample library source audio. And then how do you transform that? Like what are some of the tools that you might use? What are some of the techniques?
Yeah, a lot of the stuff we've done recently, a lot of it starts from piano, where like Shawn will come up with a piece, throw it to me, and then I pull out my shitty cello, or sometimes I'll like do a mock orchestration with a keyboard, but
and then we'll get players.
That's just
play it.
or whatever. Yeah. I'll play it over. Yeah, I mean it's that's generally the process. Like, but the main goal is to like for it to sound real,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
mics have to be involved.
Cool.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah, we do love our tone, but I would add to that there's no formula for us like that. Yeah, a lot of the times I'll make a piece, but and we were talking about the Eurorack. Sometimes we start from something kind of unexpected coming out of there and build around that.
Oh, I like that.
Each scene involves its own need, and there's an infinite number of ways to get there. So we do try to mix it up and have different kinds of starting points and different ways to get to the result.
Oh, I like that. How do you guys record? What's your preferred like DAW and
Logic?
Nice.
Yeah, it's better for video.
Sure.
It's really easy and might not sound quite as good as Pro Tools and sometimes, but we got good shit. We got good shit to make it sound better. Yeah.
No.
We make up for it in the other equipment for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Any difference between DAW output is this big.
The speed is most important.
Right. Exactly. No, it's the process.
Those little differences end up meaning a lot to us, though.
Yeah, that's good.
Put a great lengths to make something sound 1% better. I would say.
That's great. That's great. I'd love to hear. Do you guys do your own like mixes and stuff like that? Awesome.
Yeah, mixing and mastering usually.
Mastering as well. Cool.
Yeah, we do our own mastering, and we have a tape deck for it now too.
Nice, rad.
We like controlling all of those aspects, and like you were saying, with a lot of indie films that we've been on, there isn't.
There's not much.
There's not like a budget to include somebody that's amazing at it to come do it better than us. So we do it the best we can.
And also, like you're saying, it allows you more control in terms of like what it's actually going to sound like. Sometimes I feel like people look at mixing engineers as like a panacea, where in reality you're giving up quite a bit of your sound design.
I mean, if you do go that route, I think it's important to at least give them a mix that represents what you're trying to say, and if they can clean it up or
for sure,
like that, that's great too. I mean, that would probably be the route we take at some point down the line. But for now, it's just like kind of fun to learn and do it ourselves and get as good as we can at it.
For sure. Let's go down the signal chain, just because I'm a recording engineer, so I'm a nerd about all this stuff. Mic locker. What do you guys like drawing from?
We've got a vintage U67 that we use a lot.
Neumann.
Vintage Chef's 221Bs that are used a lot for strings and piano, acoustic guitar sometimes, an old Neumann CMV 563.
Nice.
That is a great mic. You know, shit.
RCA.
RCA 77.
Cool.
It's pretty fun for guitar amps. It's pretty great on that. And also some cello sometimes, stuff like that.
Cool.
Those are the big guns.
On the mic. There's a lot of other mics.
There's a lot of little
other
cheaper mics that are useful too. Drums.
Oh, of course. Yeah, even like a SM57, you can get a lot of mileage out of something like that.
We got tons of those. But
yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
That's the mic. The preamps are pretty extensive too. We have some vintage Telefunken V72s that we use.
Oh, sweet. That's awesome.
4 channels of a Gordon Model 5. It's like a very clean, beautiful sounding preamp.
Cool. I'm not familiar with that
2 channel Porcel S&P.
Nice.
Great clean preamp, and then an old Ampex, like a 150, or 350. Ampex 350.
Cool.
Like that giant 6-rack tube.
Awesome.
Preamp.
That's awesome. And that's fun too, because now you have like the super colorful options. You got the more transparent stuff depending on the character that you're looking to get out.
And the Telefunken is kind of like, it's very full range, and it's very, for a tube preamp, it's very clean, but it's just like incredible. Like, you know, just that's our peak right there as far as breeze, for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, being able to get the warmth out of those tubes, but also preserve. I mean, like you're saying,
the frequency range and everything. You know,
especially when you have like a really minimal arrangement. It's like, all that little stuff has got to be tight. You don't have a lot of places for it to hide.
But they all do their own thing. It's
cool.
It's been cool to like learn that, you know, learn them places.
Do you like now? I'm always curious with people that get really familiar with their gear. Do you have like a gut feeling? It's like this preamp, or do you like have have a conversation or whatever? You're just like I know my gear. This is the move for this.
Yeah, we know the characters of each one.
Yeah, you usually know what you're going for before you start.
Right.
Yeah. There was one session we did where we were recording bass, and it was just like kind of hard to choose, so we just recorded it in both. And
yeah, that's true.
I still switch back and forth between which one. But
Cool.
It's nice to have both because they're so different, you know.
Right. Yeah. I get that.
Cool. And then a lot of other like we have like I went crazy last Black Friday, and I bought a vintage Pultec.
Nice.
From Vintage King or some shit. King?
Cool. Right on.
Yeah. You know, it's crazy shit.
Totally.
2 tape machine. Bunch of shit.
I
mean, if we were in that room, we could have.
moved around.
The other room, we could have done a gear expo.
This is the piano room and the meeting room.
Yeah. Most people are gonna listen to this. This is a video podcast, but like Spotify just added that where you can like turn your phone and you can watch it on video. Most people still listen to it, so they'll just take our word for it.
All right.
But yeah, having all that gear that gives you those different options for color, for vibe. Do you guys play with kind of like era as well? Like, I want this to feel more like 60s or 70s or modern or a mix. Like, do you guys use that as a device, or is it mostly in the notes?
Not quite as much, because I'd say we tend to record like I don't even know, like film music is like a different kind of.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't done anything that we're like purposefully trying
like
to
a
make
period piece kind of
sound 50s or 60s.
Right.
We just find that stuff from that era tends to sound better to our sensibilities.
Yeah.
And it's really just about getting the highest fidelity, best, warmest,
best mids.
Best mids.
Getting the full frequencies. So it's less about time period and more just about the best possible sound you can get.
Cool. That makes sense. Yeah, cherry picking across. Unless you're doing like a period piece or something. But I understand. Like that's, one day for sure. For sure. Yeah, you rent out Capitol and make that happen. In terms of like mixing and checking stuff, how do you like what kind of reference monitors, or do you check it in different settings? Because like film, you know, everything from a big proper theater to your iPhone, I mean, it's like a huge range of experience of the medium. How do you guys check your mixes?
I mean, our monitors are good. They're a great monitor. We use PSI 821 and Shawn has the A17s, and they're amazing monitors. But when it comes down to like really mixing for a movie theater, he really is soundstage. It's like
cool. Yeah.
I mean, and we've done we've done a 5-1 mix.
Sweet.
My tiny little 10-10 room, which is hilarious because I don't really. I mean, it helped to have the speakers there, but you know, it's like it's not exactly the most accurate representation for a theater.
Yeah. I would say that like in the beginning when we were learning the process more, we did a lot more like, let's bounce this and check it in the car on those speakers. Let's hear it out of your iPhone. And we still do some of that. Yeah. But I think we've started to learn if it sounds this way on the speakers, that it's going to translate as good as it can everywhere else.
Usually translates pretty well.
Yeah. I agree. No, I mean, especially like when you're learning new speakers or learning a new room, that's when I'm most anxious. But yeah, like when you get it, you get it. You know, like it's going to sound like this here, it'll sound like that there. You can kind of like they, you know, they have those SonarWorks. I think they're the ones that do it, but it's like they change the frequency pattern of your headphones to be like, I'm in a new place.
Yeah, and you can have like little crappy speakers too. A lot of people do that.
For sure. Yeah, Luke Molman from Great Good Fine Okay, he loves like these like really crappy computer speaker things that he found at a dumpster.
He makes great mixes.
I mean,
he does.
Yeah,
he does.
Great.
So it does work. Yeah, that's awesome. In terms of you guys' musical journey, I'd love to just kind of follow that a little bit, and I want to mostly learn how the two of you connected and started working together and building a partnership. But I'd like to first start with what got you into music. What lured you in? What hooked you? And I'd love to ask both of you that question.
I guess I'll go first on that.
Cool.
I started playing the piano because I was too young for the basketball league.
Nice. No way.
Yeah, my friend was like, "Oh, I'm going to do piano," and it's like 2 students. I need a partner. It was not on my radar, but I really liked it right away. I really got into it, and like right away, I started making my own songs. I was always better at like making something and playing that rather than learning stuff at an early age. And then when I was 7 then, and then at 11, I met a mentor, Richard, who asked me to join a band that he was putting together. And it was really like looking up to him and everything that he taught me that like dragged me further in. It was at that point that I was like, okay, this is like a career. This is something I want to do. And I've just gone further and further down the rabbit hole. The more I listen, the more I learn how to play, the more I've experienced, the more I love it. So just each stage across the journey has drawn me into it more.
Love that. That's really cool.
And I guess I started kind of later. When I think it was like when I was around 12 or something. But I always loved music. I mean, especially it's like a kind of a full circle thing because like I always loved movie music. Like it was. I remember when I was like. Like whenever Jurassic Park came out,
yes,
like, that was like my jam, my soundtrack, and me and my brother would like put on these John Williams cues and like act out the scenes like super musical cue, where it's like it would like match the scene, and like especially that opening like scene where the guy gets eaten by the raptor in the cage, and we're like following the score and like getting ripped into the like it's just like
cool. That's
it
awesome.
was a funny it's just a funny like. This is kind of it's always like my story for
your origin story.
My origin
story.
Your
origin story. Yes.
But then it was like a lot of nothing, no music. And my dad didn't play anything. He was terrible musically, but he like started buying these guitars just to like have them, and it was cool. I mean, we'd go to the store and he'd go buy a guitar, he'd put it up in the living room, he wouldn't play it, or if he did, it would sound horrible, and it would just sit there. Cool. And then my mom got like an electric piano just to kind of like take piano lessons, and I just kind of just started playing, and a lot of like another thing, like a lot of movie themes. Like I was like teaching myself like the theme.
Oh, cool. Yeah, for sure.
Like
for
hilarious, sure. But like just like that. And she's like, "Oh, you should take piano lessons." And I took piano lessons for like a few months, and then I picked up my dad's guitar and I started like playing the guitar like with my thumb. It was like this like weird thing that I was doing.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, I want to take guitar lessons. So I started taking guitar lessons, got into like.
What did the teacher say? When you show up and you're like rocking the thumb?
I was rocking the thumb, and I can't do it anymore. But that was my thing at first. I didn't know what I was doing.
That's cool.
But like, yeah, I got into like heavy metal, like Metallica.
Yeah.
That's like a pretty standard guitar player origin.
Absolutely.
Story.
Agreed.
Then I started getting into jazz. We went to UM for jazz guitar, met Shawn, and yeah.
How'd you guys meet?
Oh, yeah, just at school.
Yeah, we were just the same year at UM. We were both jazz instrumental majors. So
nice.
we became friends right away. We were assigned to the same group right at the beginning.
Nice.
It was a weird group.
It was a really weird ensemble.
It was like a combo thing, or like what was it like?
Yeah, it was like a little like rhythm section, and we had like some weird assignment that it was a tough situation, and we like had so much fun doing it, and like the result of it felt really good. Like it came out well, and so like yeah, we realized right away like, okay, there's something here to this collaboration maybe. So
and then the actual so sick. Then another, we graduate, whatever, we're still friends, and I'm looking to rent a house.
Yeah.
In South Miami, like, which is like we're around where Shawn lived. I've been to I was at his house before. I kind of knew where it was, but I go to this house and I'm like checking it out, like it's a cool house. I go in the backyard and I notice it's his backyard.
What?
Like behind it.
Like for real?
I'm like, Shawn, I'm in your fucking backyard. Like, and we're about to be
serendipitous.
neighbors.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I started renting with some friends, and I mean, I eventually bought the house.
I bought it.
Cool.
It was like a couple of years after that, or a year after that, we started working together on like some commercial music stuff, and then we got like it was like through like an editing agency. We linked up with some directors that were doing their first feature, and we just dove in, kind of out of nowhere there. And it got into South by Southwest, and like it was kind of like a good starting point for the film scoring direction, and we've just been kind of like riding that since. That's
awesome. So how does that work? Like, so you score your first film, you guys are working together, you have this serendipitous like reunion, each other's backyards. That's a great story. And then you score this film, and now you're gonna go South by. How do you get notified? Like, hey, you're like going to be in the festival. Do you guys like make plans? Like you're going to go out and hang out and like network, or like what's your next step? Like how do you react? Where do you go from there?
I mean, our director and producer called us and told us, and they were excited, and they're like, yeah, you guys should come. They got us badges to like whatever we wanted, because, it didn't pay much. They're like, let us give you this, and we just had a fucking blast there. I mean, South by is the greatest place ever.
The most fun place you can go to, for sure.
Yeah.
Did you guys drive out there, fly out there? What'd you guys do?
Yeah, we flew out there and rented a house, and we've stayed all the way through the film thing, and then into like the music week.
Nice. That's awesome.
That's our favorite festival because it has like a whole music component to it.
Exactly.
So that was a blast. And, we try to go every time there's a good festival. We try to make it out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Did you guys feel like, being part of that energy, did you meet new people? Did that help lead to the next gig? Like, how does that, like, I'm always curious how that like momentum starts to build, and you kind of like chain one gig into another gig, and then you have a career. Like, how did that kind of next step go for you?
Yeah.
It's very intentional the way we've gotten gigs, and like I spend a lot of time working on that side of things. I think that a lot of composer careers just die because nobody's heard of you, and like if you don't take some steps at that point to like connect with people, then nothing's gonna happen. So we did meet somebody at South by that led to another film.
Cool.
One of the stars of the film that we were there for ended up making her own film, and we got to score that too.
Sweet.
I try not to network in that sense of like, we're here and here's our business.
Exactly.
But naturally at a film festival, you're meeting cool people that have earned their way into the festival, and sometimes things will come of that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. I feel like the best way to network is just to actually make friends.
Yeah.
You know, like instead of like looking at other people, it's like, what can I get out
I
of you?
always feel that the guy that's like there just to
You
network,
can't. You
and
can
it's
tell.
like a very uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah.
So weird. Yeah.
I agree. In terms of, you know, kind of what are you guys excited about like right now? Like what are you working on? What are some of the things that, you know, are like challenges that either you're working on right now or you really want to tackle coming up? Like is there any, you know, style of music? Is there any style of film that you're like, man, I really want to do that, or something you're working on right now that I'm so hyped to be a part of this?
Yeah, there's a little bit of all of that going
Cool.
on.
Hit me.
Yeah. So right now we're in a weird place in film industries. There's
Yeah,
strikes
right.
and like, so
Totally.
there's not a lot of things happening right now. And
Mhm.
so we're not on a bunch of films. We are working on a short coming up soon.
Nice.
That's going to be really awesome. I've been talking to the director and she's got some great ideas. So there's some excitement for that. One of the projects that we're taking on in the meantime is building a standalone studio in between our adjacent houses. We're going to make a building.
Yes.
I got a blueprint here for whoever's watching visually.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, we're working on, you know, a whole control room and
Yes.
ISO rooms and the whole thing, and like elevating our game to like really be able to do things properly, to be able to work around the clock, to be able to keep the AC on, to be able to have more people in the room with us, like, you know, getting out of the home studio and getting into the backyard home studio and its own building. So that's been a huge project.
Yes.
Adam was also mentioning a project that we were working on from the script stage, and super excited about that film because the script is amazing, and the team that's working on that is incredible. We got to write some music for it already, and I think that's going to be, you know, one of our favorite films that we get the chance to work on when it finally comes to fruition.
Yeah, there's a lot of writer strike stuff kind of holding it back right now, but
For sure.
Excited for that one, for sure.
Yeah, I think stylistically, we've kind of honed in on this like kind of neoclassical thing that mixes some classical music, some ambient music. That's kind of our favorite these days.
Yeah.
Cool.
One thing that really excites us for the future is to do some more like larger ensemble writing where we get to, you know, use a real orchestra, get to record with choirs.
Yes.
Kind of like collaboration with other musicians and bringing more people into the mix is something that excites me about the future, like getting into some of the bigger films that allow us the opportunity to work with more people and people that we admire what they can do.
Yes. And feel free to say no. I'm just curious your take. You don't have to go down here if you don't want to.
Okay.
I would love to learn more about the writer's strike from the composer's perspective, but at the same time, I don't want to you know, make it so that you guys have to speak to publicly on anything if you don't want to speak publicly on it.
Oh, I mean, we don't think we're going to say anything new.
No, that's true.
Obviously, we support the actors and the writers. Like people are setting themselves up to make a living and to be able to do their art more fully and have all this stuff sorted out so that they're not struggling. So
I mean, and that whole. I mean, it all even can relate to music in a sense, because a lot of the things that they're striking about, you know, involve AI and you know, things like that, which is a threat to potentially to composers, you know, too. So it's something that it's a cool technology that needs to be figured out as far as how it works, you know, legally, all that stuff.
Right. Yeah, and like especially when you can have an AI that's like, hey, give me art that's like this person. It's like, I trained on that person. It's like, is that cool?
It doesn't really make its own person.
No, there's always going to be the need for people to do things. So, I don't concern myself too much with what AI is going to do. But as far as the strikes go, I think it's probably really needed right now for these things to all get figured out. And I'm just hoping they come to some sort of agreement soon that everybody's cool with, so that we can go back to making great things. So, and I think the circumstances need to be arranged so that everybody can do their best work.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's a really good point. the AI stuff is weird. It's weird. I think it's a strange thing for all of us to grapple with.
Oh, no. It's fun. It's good.
Yeah, it can be fun. Have you guys played with any of it, or?
I mean, just the little
Yeah.
picture, make a weird picture with some words thing. That's crazy.
I've done some like music generation, like in an
Cool.
AI tool where it's like put in some descriptors and it popped out some horrible thing. And I've listened to like some examples. I don't think the technology is just not there yet, but it's going to move so quickly.
Yeah.
And I have seen some examples of like, oh, okay, well, this is legitimate. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, the best thing that I've seen so far is like sorting. Like it's like, here's your sample library, like find me something that's kind of like this, and it's like, hey, here's a snare drum that's pretty close. It's like, oh yeah, thanks. That saved me some digging.
That's super useful, yeah.
Yeah, there's all kinds of applications where these can be tools that we use to move faster and get things done better. So hopefully that's where we go instead of getting replaced by robots.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that's like the mindset shift of technologists versus artists is like, hey, like guys, like focus on making the tool, like not necessarily like remaking the artist. But I think there's a little bit of arrogance involved on behalf of some of these tech CEOs.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely. I mean, and also these studios, like you can totally take advantage of people with that technology. So it's really important to hash it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You're selling your likeness in perpetuity for $200.
Yeah.
That's pretty rough.
Yeah, they need to figure that out before that happens, I think.
It was like that story about the Power Rangers, like remember the guy that was in that big face that comes up. Do you ever watch Power Rangers?
I did watch Power Rangers. I'm trying to remember.
But I forget his name. Zord or something like the
I'm
big.
not gonna come up with the name.
Whatever, I don't remember his name, but he's like he's just like projects his face, and like he's in every episode, like talking to the Power Rangers. He's like the leader,
right?
Yeah,
and they paid the guy $150 one time to use his face, and then they would just like insert dialogue into his mouth, like doing different mouth, and he got paid $150 total for the entire show.
Oh my!
It's wild. It's crazy.
Wow. No, totally. I mean, like, I feel like if the voice actor for Siri knew what she was getting into, she'd probably be retired.
Oh, yeah. So
yeah. That's a weird world. Yeah. Anyway, the home recorder air conditioning thing is so real. Like, yes. I don't know if listeners know, but the whole, like, you have the air conditioning in the same room as the microphones. You got to turn that thing off, boil while you do your take, and then turn it back on.
Yeah, we're in Miami too, so like, it's 100 degrees outside, and it turns into a sauna real quick. So one of our many motivations, is to have a studio where you insulate and do all the proper things so that the AC can remain on and silent and keep us cool.
No, that'll be huge, and also dehumidified. That's not a bad thing either.
Yeah, for all the instruments' sake as well.
For sure. Yeah, that's a great point. Do you guys find that in your heat and humidity you have to tune up more, or like you get the piano without the front on, or are you guys having to make adjustments and stuff?
Piano needs to be tuned in the seasons.
All the time.
Yeah, every time the season changes. And we only have 2 seasons, but those 2 seasons, hot and cold, needs to be tuned in between that.
Hot and like mild. Never gets
right.
Less hot.
When you're gigging and you're going outside, then all the guitar players, when you have outside gigs, are constantly tuning, probably more than if we were in California or something.
Yeah. That's interesting. Do you guys have any like takes on where the kind of music industry is at right now, or kind of where creativity is at? Just curious on like how you've as you've grown your careers, has your perspective changed, or kind of like the way that you look at any of these things, has that evolved or coalesced, manifestoed?
I'm grateful to keep learning about the music industry. It's such a big animal. Yeah, there's so many sides of it, and there's so many different ways that people are earning money through music now. So I've been really grateful to meet people that can teach me about all the various things. And so more than like shaping an opinion on it. I'm just learning about the ins and outs and how many different things are going on.
Cool.
Trying to adapt.
Yeah, trying to adapt and trying to be valuable now, but I think creativity is more alive than ever. I think because there's more tools available to more people, and maybe we've sorted out things as a society to be able to allow people to explore their creativity. I think, and we have more people than we've ever had before. Creativity is at an all-time high, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's a lot of great shit out there. Sure. People are making good stuff. I mean, I don't know. I'm not speaking for the pop music or it's just like a film. Yeah. Like there's a lot of great scores that have been coming out.
Oh yeah.
That's great.
A lot of great films. It's an awesome time for well, maybe not right now with the strikes, but before that,
I understand.
There's never in history have there been so many productions and so much money being poured into
TV shows right now are like they're kind of like the king.
Yeah, it's like a renaissance. Like big companies pouring in billions to make shows. So it's a cool time.
Yeah, I agree. And I appreciate the optimism because I've talked to some other people that are in your field. I'm usually older folks. And, they've got the whole, it's not the way it used to be kind of feeling. And I understand that.
We've been to some gatherings and like, 'cause we go to LA every once in a while to kind of say what's up. And we've gone to a few gatherings where like you get like a group of film composers together and it's just like, it's kind of a weird vibe, like because you have some bitter people there, like that are just mad that they're not working or whatever, and it's just like, oh yeah,
sure. There was.
It's like let's go back to Miami. Yeah, we'll just.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's easy to fall into pessimism, and it's easy to compare. In the 90s, what you'd get paid to do something to now is totally different, or the era of being able to sell CDs for some people. And it's easy to resist change and to be upset about it, but it's not productive. I think optimism is very productive.
It's probably easier for us to say that too, because we weren't making that kind of money. For sure on the advertising music side, we hear that all the time. We're like, you're not, like these commercials don't pay anywhere near what they used to pay for advertising music. And it's like, that's not our goals. We're not trying to make advertising music, but you gotta make money. And we're happy to make, some thousands. Let's go.
Let's go.
And they're like, I used to get $30,000 easy for a commercial. And now it's like, oh, I'm happy with that.
Yeah. Right.
Just because we're used to what we're used to,
But I also think it speaks to you guys have a certain sense of like optimism and joy that you're bringing to what you're doing. Like I can tell that you genuinely love it. And I think that's kind of like a nice little shield when you get into those environments. You're like, I'm not that. I don't want to become that.
Yeah. I've been very conscious of that. I remember, coming up as a younger musician and meeting a lot of people like that. I was like, oh my gosh, like, is that an inevitable part of this journey? And I don't think it needs to be. And I think that if you're in that dark of a place, then like, it's time to look at other options, because this isn't the career for becoming a billionaire. It's a career that you do because you love it. And if you can sustain yourself and find a way to do it, then it's great.
Yes. Exactly. And with that, I want to move to our last question. So this show is called Love Music More. This goes into love music why. And it's kind of like why do you do what you do? Why did you sacrifice? Why did you go to school? Why do you not make the investment banker money, but instead turn on and off the AC? This is like basically if there's a 12-year-old listening to this right now, somebody that's just like kind of plunking away at the keyboards, what do you tell them? Like, and they're like, should I keep going? Is this a viable thing? But they love it. Like, what would you tell your younger self? Like, why do you do this? Like, why did you choose this? Just curious.
I don't think much has changed since in my perspective. Like, I've always seen music as it's just a way to transport. It's like it can take you places where you've never been before on this earth, and like it's an adventure. Like I see it. And I have a very adventurous spirit about it. Like I like walking into a room with all this shit everywhere, not knowing what the hell's going to happen, and just throwing shit around, and then watching something miraculously just manifest, and not asking how or why. You know, it's like it's a nice feeling to kind of just like jump off a ledge and know that you're going to get caught by something at some point, you know. And that's like the feeling that I get with music.
Yeah, I mean, I would tell a 12-year-old to absolutely keep going, of course, to keep making music if you love it. It's a privilege as a lifestyle to be able to make your living by doing something that you love. And I don't meet any investment bankers who feel passion towards investment banking. It's really just a means to get money, and it's not a way to fulfill yourself. I think every single time I play, every day, I'm getting a spiritual and emotional fulfillment from what I'm doing. And that's worth the sacrifice of turning the AC on and off and not making tons of money because you're living your life to what you value. And if you get to do that and you get to meet people and collaborate and make great relationships, it can be an amazing life. And I wouldn't trade it for anything.
I love that.
Yeah, collaboration is a big, wonderful thing.
For sure. And that's definitely something that's led us into film, being able to collaborate with people. A lot of people on one project, and people who have expertise in things that we have no idea about. It's cool to me.
And it's always great to like, I mean, a lot of these premieres we go to, like it's the first time we meet a lot of these people, and it's like, just like how quickly this group of people come together, and you just like,
you're bonded.
Yeah, you're just so bonded and
made this thing together. So
it's
the community aspect of it is a big appeal as well, for sure.
That's a really interesting point. I liked all of that. The jumping off the ledge and knowing that you'll be caught. The finding personal fulfillment and freedom, and then also the community of, you're right. I mean, a film, that's so many people doing so many different things, but all integral to creating that great, sum greater than the parts kind of thing. Yeah.
It's been, I mean, for film scoring, that's by far the greatest joy, is like the finished film, not how cool was our music, you know, like that's fine. Like if it's cool, it's cool. If it ends up not being that crazy on its own, that's cool too. If the film is amazing because of it, you know, or it helps it make the film better, you know. So it's a less selfish kind of endeavor, music, when it regards to music and everything, which I like.
Does it feel similar to like when you guys play jazz together and you're like kind of bouncing off of each other? Or does it?
We kind of departed from jazz after school.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Maybe it's similar to that first time we played.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah,
in a way, you know.
So it's similar to playing in a band with somebody, which we have a lot of experience with. Where you bring something to it, but it starts getting colored by everybody else's input and by what they're doing. But this has like a different dimension to it, where they're bringing visuals or storytelling or writing or set design or coloring, all these different things that we don't have any expertise in, and they're bringing a new dimension to the art. It's the most collaborative thing I've ever seen.
I love it. Well, thank you both so much for taking the time to talk with me and talk about music. This has been an absolute joy.
Yeah, for us too. Thanks for having us.
For sure. Is there anywhere that you guys would recommend people kind of check you guys out, watch some of your films, or is there anything that you'd prefer to point people towards? Instagrams?
We have a film, it's a good film, really great film on Showtime right now.
Cool. That's
streaming for free. You can check that out, called Poser.
Great.
What is there anything else streaming? Is that the main?
That might be the only one. You could find Grasshoppers at a place, and then
Amazon,
and then you could put either of our names into Spotify and hear our last couple soundtracks that got published.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I'll link to that for sure in the bio too, so people can just tap and listen. Check out the soundtracks. Yeah, I love it. And maybe pretend to kill some dinosaurs to whatever soundtrack it is.
The dinosaurs are killing the people.
Right. Okay, yeah. Well, thank you both so much. I'm Scoobert Doobert. You can check out my stuff at scoobertdoobert.pizza. Subscribe, 5 stars, all the good stuff. So thank you both so much for joining, and wish you both all the best in your careers. And I'll be watching and listening.
Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you.
Take care.